They say I disappeared for 12 minutes. But to me, I was gone for 12 years. The party raged. A cacophony assaulted the senses, the throb of bass vibrating through the floor and up through Sarah's very bones, the shrill laughter of drunken revelers, and the clinking of glasses raised in a toast to oblivion. The air hung thick and heavy, a cloying miasma of sweat, cheap perfume, and something else, something acrid and indefinable, like the metallic tang of blood mixed with the sickly sweet scent of decay. But Sarah felt wrong. It wasn't just the overwhelming sensory input, the feeling of being swallowed whole by the press of bodies, and the flashing strobe lights that painted the room in lurid, shifting colors. It was something deeper, a discordant note in the symphony of the night. A chill, sharper than the air conditioning, snaked its way up her spine, raising gooseflesh on her arms. A dizziness washed over her, not the pleasant lightheadedness of a good buzz, but a sickening vertigo that made the room spin and tilt on its axis. The faces around her, once familiar and friendly, began to blur and distort, twisting into grotesque masks, leering and mocking, their eyes gleaming with an unnatural, predatory hunger. The vibrant tapestry of the party, once a celebration of life and connection, now seemed like a grotesque mockery, a descent into a chaotic and terrifying underworld. Then, black. Not a gradual fading of consciousness, but a sudden, violent severing from reality. A trapdoor opened beneath her feet, plunging her into an all-consuming darkness that swallowed her whole, erasing the music, the laughter, the world. The vibrant energy of the party was replaced by an eerie silence, a void where time and space seemed to cease to exist. She felt a disoriented sensation of falling, as if she were plummeting through an endless abyss, with no sense of direction or gravity. Strange images flickered through her mind, fragmented and surreal, like pieces of a broken mirror reflecting distorted realities. Twisted landscapes stretched out before her, alien and desolate, under skies that bled strange colors. She saw faces, faces she knew and faces she didn't, contorted in expressions of terror, grief, and a profound, soul-crushing loneliness. Sounds echoed in the nothingness, whispers, screams, a cacophony of voices speaking in forgotten tongues, pulling her further into the abyss. A sense of profound isolation washed over her, the crushing realization that she was utterly alone in this temporal anomaly, adrift in a sea of fractured time. The darkness pressed in on her from all sides, suffocating and disorienting, and she could feel her sanity slipping away like sand through her fingers. The very essence of her being was stretched and distorted, her sense of self dissolving into the nothingness, leaving behind only a raw, primal terror. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. She awoke in the same room, same song, the opening chords of the chorus echoing in her ears, 12 minutes gone according to the clock on the wall. The party raged on, oblivious to the cosmic horror she had just endured. Her friends were laughing and dancing, their faces unchanged, their lives untouched by the temporal storm that had ripped through her existence. But for Sarah, everything had changed. Her reflection aged. She stumbled towards the nearest mirror, her hand trembling as she reached out to touch the glass. The face that stared back was undeniably hers, yet ravaged by time. Wrinkles, deep and etched into her skin like the lines of a road map, spoke of decades spent under harsh suns and unforgiving winters. They were the marks of a life fully lived, a life brimming with experiences both joyous and tragic, a life that was not hers. Haunted eyes, filled with a profound sadness and a bone-deep weariness that belied her youthful appearance, gazed back at her with the weight of ages. The vibrant spark of youth had been extinguished, replaced by a smoldering ember of resignation.
The Easter Bunny isn't coming. It's already here. The old church stood on a hill overlooking the town, its stone facade weathered by centuries of storms. It was Easter Sunday, but an unsettling silence hung in the air, a stark contrast to the usual jubilant hymns. Inside, the congregation was sparse, a handful of nervous-looking people scattered in the pews. Father Michael, a young priest with a haunted look in his eyes, stood at the altar. He'd been the pastor for barely a year, taking over after the sudden, unexplained disappearance of his predecessor, Father Thomas. The townsfolk whispered about it, some spoke of a crisis of faith, others of a dark secret the old church held. The service began, but an unease settled over the attendees. The stained glass windows, usually vibrant with depictions of resurrection and rebirth, seemed to darken, the colors twisting into grotesque shapes. A chilling draft snaked through the nave, extinguishing the candles one by one, plunging the church into a dim, flickering gloom. A young boy in the front pew began to sob, pointing towards the altar. "The bunny," he whimpered, "I saw the bunny." Sarah, his mother, tried to soothe him, but her own heart pounded in her chest. She'd seen it too, a fleeting glimpse of a large, shadowy figure near the altar, shaped vaguely like a rabbit, but with eyes that glowed an unnatural red. Father Michael tried to continue the sermon, but his voice trembled. He spoke of hope and renewal, but his words rang hollow in the oppressive atmosphere. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the church. Old Mrs. Gable, sitting in the back pew, was convulsing, her face contorted in terror. Her eyes were fixed on the large wooden crucifix behind the altar, where a dark, viscous liquid was oozing from the wounds of Christ. The liquid bubbled and hissed, and a sickeningly sweet smell filled the air, like rotting lilies and burnt sugar. Panic erupted. People screamed and scrambled for the exits, but the heavy oak doors slammed shut, sealing them inside. The stained glass windows shattered, showering the congregation with shards of colored glass. The wind howled through the broken panes, carrying whispers that seemed to slither into their minds, promising pain and despair. The boy screamed again, louder this time. The shadowy figure was moving now, emerging from behind the altar. It was tall and gaunt, its fur matted and stained with what looked like dried blood. Its red eyes burned with malevolent intelligence, and its long, sharp claws clicked against the stone floor. It moved with unnatural speed, grabbing people, tearing them apart. Their screams mingled with the creature's guttural growls and the sickening crunch of bone. Father Michael watched in horror, his faith crumbling as the church became a scene of carnage. Sarah clutched her son, shielding him with her body. She looked at the crucifix again. The dark liquid was flowing faster now, and the figure on the cross seemed to writhe in agony. Then, she understood. This wasn't about death. It was about a twisted rebirth. An unholy resurrection. The creature reached them. Sarah closed her eyes, praying for a swift end. But it didn't come. Instead, she felt a sharp pain in her arm, like a burning bite. She cried out, and when she opened her eyes, she saw that the creature hadn't harmed her son. It had marked her. Over the next hour, the church became a charnel house. The creature moved among the terrified parishioners, marking them, transforming them. Their skin twisted and contorted, their bones snapped and reformed, and their eyes turned red. They became like the creature, their bodies warped into grotesque parodies of their former selves. Father Michael, the last one standing, watched as his congregation was transformed into a twisted mockery of Easter, a perverse celebration of new life born from pain and incorruption. The creature approached him, its red eyes gleaming with triumph. "Welcome, Father," it rasped, its voice a guttural whisper, "to our unholy communion." Father Michael screamed, and the creature embraced him, its claws sinking into his flesh. His transformation began, the agony eclipsing everything he had ever known. The next morning, the sun rose on the town. The doors of the church swung open, and the transformed congregation emerged, blinking in the sunlight. They were no longer the people they once were. They were something else, something monstrous and unholy, ready to spread their dark gospel to the world. The boy, his eyes now glowing red, skipped ahead, a grotesque parody of childlike innocence. In his hand, he carried a blood-soaked Easter egg. Like and subscribe for more stories.